Okay, so we're going live for my first live chats here. Wait for some people to join. But basically, what I'm doing today is kind of a open and QA live stream for folks. I've been doing or having a lot of emails lately about building rifles, and folks had a bunch of questions. So, see who jumps on board here. What? Yep. What's up, Mike? Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's a quick little live chat. This is kind of a open Q&A for DPGunworks, which is my company here. Been a lot of folks inquiring about building rifles, so I'm kind of just opening this live chat to you guys to ask questions about reloading, building rifles, and basically how to get into precision long-range shooting. So today's live chat is all for you guys. We got DW in the house, conservative sniper hunter, Big Al. What's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. Been a while, haven't seen you around. Tactical Fud, got Stewart County Ballistics. Thanks for joining. Six Creeder, great person. Mario, what's up, brother? Abigail in the house. Appreciate jumping on. So, like I said, this is an open Q&A. I'm pretty much going to go over some of the cartridges that I've been playing with for specifically PRS, which is Precision Rifle Series. So, Midwest Long Range. Guys, check out that channel. Got a great channel. He's doing a really good work. Playing around with a 22 lately. So, he's also got a 25 Creedmoor, which that's what I'm rocking out this season as well. KP15 for DMR setup. Now, is the KP15 the one that has the buttstock built in with the lower? If I believe that's the one, honestly, I have no experience behind that rifle. I think folks that have longer lengths of pull, that might come in a problem for having that kind of setup. So, I got no experience behind the KP15. I heard a lot about it, though. Folks are telling me to 3D print one of those. So, some of the cartridges that I've been playing with and building rifles for, primarily last year alone, was mostly the 6 ARC. Now, you guys that follow my channel know I absolutely love this cartridge. It's a very predictable cartridge. It will basically mimic the performance of a BR and a dasher. So I could push a 105 hybrid at 2,950 feet a second. As far as feeding issues, if you use the 224 Valkyrie mag from MDT, they just came out with a 12-rounder and 10-rounder metal mag, but primarily what I was using before was the polymer mag. In fact, I might have one laying around. I don't. So the polymer mag works really well. I haven't had one single malfunction feeding the 6 ARC out of the 224 Valkyrie mag. That's one of the cartridges I played around with. I continue to play around with it. In fact, my Dillon right here is set up for 6 ARC for loading that bulk. It primarily uses CFE 223 and lever evolution. 30 grains of powder is kind of where the accuracy node is. So that's what I've been playing with. Another cartridge we could discuss is obviously the 6 Creedmoor. Now, been around for a while, and it's still a really good choice for PRS. What I've found lately, playing around with different bullets, is going with a 105 grain. So actually dropping the bullet weight down and dropping the velocity to 28 or 2,900 feet a second. I'm running a 105 Burger hybrid with the 6 Creedmoor, and it's performing very well. Okay, have you seen the new Geisley 6 ARC rifle? I have not yet. The preferred barrel length for the 6 ARC. Well, what I found in building rifles, there's 3 accuracy node lengths. So building a bolt action 26.5-inch length is what I've been recommending. That gives all the benefit of the velocity. and it gives a nice tight accuracy node. The rifles that I build typically shoot sub ½ inch with Hornady Black with that 26-inch length. Now, you could drop down to 24 and run a can. The next length that I would recommend would be 22. Personally, I would not run anything under 22 inches of length with a 6 arc. You kind of drop velocity drastically. Basically, you start performing like a 6.5 Grendel. Red Raider Reloading, what's up, brother? Okay, next question we have temperature stability on lever evolution. It's a good question. CFE 223 and lever evolution are not temperature sensitive or are they fluctuate. So yeah, they're very sensitive to temperature. So I've gotten this question a lot, and honestly, this is what I would recommend. You could really build a load that's temperature insensitive, but honestly, there's still a little bit of fluctuation, regardless if you're using Varget or H4350. You'll be surprised, and what I always tell folks to do is go out early morning, like butt crack of dawn, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, right when the sun rises, and match your dope. Basically, build a dope chart so when you have 30-degree weather swings, you know what your rifle's doing. So for the 6 arc, which I ran in competition dynamics, in the early morning when me and Ray were out there, I was dropping points because I was actually about 2/10 lower on my target. So velocity dropped down around 28:10, 28:30 in the early morning, and then around noontime, it jumped up to like 29:30, like right back where it was. So honestly, if you know the characteristic of your rifle and what that powder does, you could really be a good performer, regardless if the temperature is or if you have a cartridge that's temperature insensitive or sensitive to temperature. So that's a great question. I would honestly just build a dope chart. It doesn't matter for me. Have I gotten to try the 106 tap bullets? No, but I have those on order. I'm going to try those in the 6 Creedmoor, 6 GT, and also 6 ARC. DW having a hard time finding ELDs. Yeah, dude, everybody is. You know what? You may have actually good luck finding some burger bullets. Mile High Shooting usually has burger bullets in stock for 6.5, so you may want to look into those. I'm not a big fan of the ELD bullets in the 6.5 Creedmoor. If you're going to be pushing past 1,500 yards, I've noticed the bullet tip or something happens. It starts to kind of fly all over the place with 6.5. It's hitting still CA. He's got a 30-inch 308. We built him that thing, and that thing is a hammer. How about 1,500? He'll tell you straight up that thing will perform. So, okay. Ryan's got some questions about a lathe. Yeah, go ahead, shoot me an email there, brother. I'll help you handle that. Any plans to do anything with the long action? Yes, Kurt. I wouldn't consider it a long action, but I have a 25 Sherman short tactical. It's technically a 7 SAUM, like AI style. So I got a 25 Sherman tactical that pushes a 135 grain burger at 34 to 3,700 feet a second. So it's a smoking cartridge for ELR. Long action, I've done a 7mm Red Mag recently on one of my recent videos, so you can check that out. But definitely, I got some long action cartridges in mind. 25-06, I'm building one for a guy right now. So I might show a video on that. Okay. CSH is asking, how far do I seat my bullets? All right. Great topic. You guys all know what this is. It's the Hornady case comparator tool, or the modified case gauge for your overall length. Now, you could buy the modified cases, obviously, and they're already threaded. The caveat to it is that this case itself, if you buy one of those cases, aren't fired to your chamber. So if you're going to use this tool, I highly, highly recommend finding a gunsmith or somebody capable of threading one of your fire form cases. This will help you determine how far off your bullet sits touching the lands. Now, what I typically do is I get one of these. Obviously, I shoot a lot of bolt action, so mine's curved. Find it where it just barely touches the lands, and I start at 25 thousandths off of that measurement. So what I like to do is get a overall length measurement and also a case comparator measurement. ogive and back off 25 thousandths. Typically, what you'll find is majority of the bullets that are tangent style bullets are going to be, you're going to find an accuracy note around 20 thousandths off the lands. Some of the bullets like burgers like to be around 10 thousandths, so you just have to play with that. Okay, Ghost Rider in the house. What's up, brother? 257 Weatherby mag, fast twist rate 135. I don't know. The 257 Weatherby mag is a proven cartridge. That would be really interesting, putting that thing in like a 1 7.5 or 7 twist for that 135. Now, Midwest long range, that 135 grain burger, me and you both know that bullet is extremely picky for getting an accuracy node. Now, I've been playing around with 6.5 stay ball and the 25 Creedmoor, getting pretty good performance. But that bullet likes to be pushed around 3,100 feet a second. So I'm finding out that bullet really performs in my 25 Sherman short tactical, and that bullet is screaming at like 3,400 feet a second. So you may want to try the 133 burgers, by the way. I had those on order, and I have a feeling the 133s might suit what we're trying to do. Let's see, we got saying something about the new Geisy rifle. Yeah, I saw a video on that. I think it was TF TV was doing a video on that. 25 Creedmoor rather than the 6 ARC. No, the 6 ARC, honestly, proof research is kind of narrowed down the accuracy on the 6 ARC and the AR-15. So look out for that. I actually have a rifle being made with a proof barrel right now on the AR-15 that is going to perform very well. So I'll go over the details on that, but what they're finding out is the length of the gas system is what affects the accuracy on that as well. So they're using a rifle +1 system. 18-inch barrels and 20-inch barrels have been proven to work with the proof barrel on the 6 ARC AR-15s, but anything past that, you start to open up accuracy. So proof kind of narrowed it down. I played around with custom chambers, so I got something working from 22 to 26 inches, but it's a non-SAMI spec reamer, so it's going to be pushing the lands a lot closer, get that accuracy node. So I got something that works, but it's a non-SAMI chamber. Yep, the 133 pills. Yep, I got those on the way. What's up, David Henry? Quick little Q&A here today. Appreciate you dropping by. Yes, sir, Sean White. That's what I have. A Cobalt Kinetics 22 on the way. 22-inch 6 ARC. That's what I have being made. So good, pretty penny for one of those. But we could talk about some PRS cartridges. What I've made last year alone, I've made quite a bit of 6 GTs, 6 ARCs, 6 Creedmoors. What's another one I did? There's a lot of 6.5 PRC rifles that I built last year as well. They're all really great cartridges, and honestly, for shooting PRS, speed really isn't the #1 factor to determine what you need to, how you need to build your rifle. So to give experience, what seems to work very well is the 2,800 to 2,900 feet a second mark on the majority of the 6mm cartridges. Now, what ends up happening around 3,100 feet a second is you get more spin drift. And I noticed that even with the 6 ARC, when I was pushing 2,950 with lever evolution, at like 800 yards, you have more spin drift, which you have to factor in with your wind calls. So what I've noticed is playing around with 6 Creedmoor with a 105 and dropping it down to around 2,900 feet a second, I'm having to hold less wind or spin drift at 800 yards, and it seems to hold right at about MOA accuracy at 1,200 yards. So, when you basically are trying to choose a cartridge for PRS, speed shouldn't determine, what cartridge to get. Honestly, what you want to do is have a set goal. So I like to match my speed drops to my reticle. So for instance, if my local PRS matches go out to 1,000 yards, I want to have solid MRAD holdovers if need be, because honestly, for the local PRS matches, they're doing a lot more holdover stages, or stages with only 30 to 60 seconds time, and you got 4 targets to engage. So if you make it easy for yourself, and for instance, you have a target at 673 and you only have to hold like 4.5 mils, it makes it very easy to kind of just use your reticle and do holdovers. So what I really recommend to do is go on the straight lock, jump on there and play around with bullets and different speeds, and you'll start seeing your little speed nodes, kind of where your reticle is. If you could build a cartridge using your ballistics calculator and match your reticle, that's going to really benefit you for these PRS matches. So like for me, like I'm saying, what I'm seeing the majority of the time that works the best is that 2900 or 2870 feet a second mark. Seems to really kind of tie up my reticles where I need it to be. Yeah, Sean, yeah, there's a lot of pro PRS guys using gas guns. In fact, there's a guy at Peoria, Cowtown, that uses a 6GT AR-10 and is whooping ass on that. So, yeah. Kurt's asking the 25 SST. Yes, it is a Magnum bolt face. It is a true short-action cartridge, so it will feed out of a magazine. Okay. What's up, Dave Stratemeyer? He's here. He has a great channel as well. Check him out. He does a lot of 6 ARC. A 6 ARC flyer out of AR-15. I did, brother. Yeah, I have. The 108 ELD, I got a load working, and I can share the details with you, but it's out of my gun with a custom chamber. So I don't know if maybe it might work for you. So, yeah. The Geo Ballistics apps, I have not. I use Straylock and I use Kestrel. But those are the 2 ballistic apps that I do. And honestly, I only reference those, and they get me close, and then I just build a dope chart from there. So I got, written down dope on that. And Abigail's asking, is it worth chasing the new cartridge or spending whatever thousands to load for it and rifle and shoot? Abigail, honestly, no. The advances in technology in today's bullets, dude, a typical 308, I can tell you what, I mean, folks that shoot F-class, they'll tell you here that this little 200 grain bullet, 220X, I could push that thing at 2,900 feet a second out of a 308. Most folks don't believe me, but I proved that on a few videos. So, yeah, you really don't need to chase cartridges. If you got something that works, I mean, the 308 works great. The advances in bullet technology nowadays kind of put new light on these older cartridges. The 30-06 for long-range performance has always been a great performer for me. And you can push a 168 grain ELD at 2,900 feet a second and easily take out big game with that. So, yeah. What's up, Michael Dunn? Appreciate you stopping by. Who makes the best 5.56 AR barrel off the shelf? I'm just getting into ARs, Kurt, to be honest. So I could give my experience. I don't know about being the best, but I've had really good luck with Proof. I've had good luck with White Oak Ornament, and also Criterion. So I also have an older Noveske barrel when Noveske was doing like one-offs. So I got a Noveske 13-inch AR-15 barrel that I use for 2-gun. And ideal speed for hunting, 200 yards. That really depends. Are we talking about just whitetail, deer, and all that, or are you talking about varmints? Because if you're hunting varmints, you do want the speed. Specifically, I hunt a lot of coyote, so I use a 58 grain B-Max out of my 6 ARC, and I'm pushing that thing at 3,500 feet a second. So for typical hunting, I would go with like a 90 grain GMX or something bullet, expander, all copper bullet, and with the 6 ARC, you can push 3,000 feet a second. 300 PRC, no. I haven't built one yet, surprisingly. I have no experience yet. That's something I'm looking into. So we also have another question here. 16-inch gun. Yeah, Criterion's got lightweight. Yeah. Otter, yep, distance from lands. That is an interesting topic. There's regarding increasing your free bore, hence further from the lands is not necessarily that bad. So Otter, there's actually a really good discussion and forum topic. I believe it was Brian Litz is the one that authored that one, but talking about jumping bullets, 65,000s, and they were specifically burger bullets. you could get really good accuracy. Now, this is kind of what I was discussing on Echo Reloading channel on recently today on his live chat. 100-yard groups. If you guys take anything today, 100-yard groups mean nothing, and it's sad to say because I'm too guilty of this. I've always focused on a lot of 100-yard groups. If you want to know what your rifle is doing and you want to have a really accurate rifle, you have to shoot for groups at least 300 yards. Now, to give experience, what I mean by that is you could get a 100-yard group, and if you don't have a keen eye of what that group is doing, like for instance, you could see if you have a nice big cardboard backer, when a bullet impacts that paper, you may have slightly more of a carbon ring on one side of that bullet hole versus the other, but you have a stupid tight group, right? Well, that bullet is at 100% stabilized. Jack Neary, if you guys are familiar with him, Jack Neary is a accomplished bench rest shooter. He kind of goes over this with his bench rest reloading class. If you know what you're looking for and you're determining your gun's potential accuracy at 100 yards, you are really kind of putting yourself in a bad loop because it probably won't hold that group at long distance. So 300-yard groups is going to tell you your gun's potential accuracy. And what you want to do is find an accuracy node that is, for one, wide. So you could go up in, plus or minus 0.5 of a grain without affecting the accuracy. And then your bullet jump, you want to be, you could go plus or minus 5 thousandths on that too as well and still hold an accuracy group. But you want that accuracy group to hold at 300 yards. So many times, and I can give my experience, building so many rifles last year, I found rifles that will shoot sub-quarter inch at 100 yards, but then automatically I take that rifle and I go for shooting a group at 600 and also 1,000. And 9 out of 10 times, that group doesn't hold. It doesn't hold MOA, which is surprising to see because here you are at 100 yards with a sub-quarter inch group, and 600 yards, you're barely holding a 5-inch plate. So when you do load development, and this is the biggest factor, you want to look for nice straight cut punch holes with a carbon ring and a clover leaf. Sometimes you're going to get a rifle that shoots about a 0.3, but take that load, shoot it at 300 yards or 400 yards, and then keep walking it out to about 600 to 1,000 and see how that group opens up. Now, there's something that a lot of channels that go over reloading don't really talk about, and that's called ballistic coefficient deviation. Now, what that means is basically you can have really tight SDs out of the muzzle using your chronograph, but the bullet tip or how that bullet is yawed coming out of that muzzle is going to affect the BCs downrange. So how the bullet exits the bore could be it could be deformed a certain way and affect the BCs. So all of that is to do with your load development as well. So I could probably do a video on that soon and talk about that because what I got rifles like specifically my 25 Creedmoor shoots a 0.6. I mean, it's not the best group, but it holds a 0.6 at 1,400 yards. Really rare to see that. So yeah. Yep, 356 win. Yeah. I agree, man. There's a lot of YouTube channels. I'm not going to name them off. I'm not one to badmouth anybody, but they are very data-oriented or data-driven, where they will just spit out a bunch of data, flash it on the screen, tell you all these hypotheses of humidity affects accuracy, all of this crap, have all of these crazy reloading gear. And, I've been one down that path. You really don't need really expensive reloading gear. In fact, I'm still using, this is my powder scale. You guys are familiar. This is a WowWee scale. It's an $8 scale. And I have no problem holding single-digit SDs. Now, why is it that an $8 powder scale would do that? Well, there's, like I said, when you get to the accuracy node, there's more to it than just dumping powder on most consistent as possible. You find an accuracy node, and you'll find something that you could deviate plus or minus 0.5 and still hold the group. But yeah, definitely 200-yard to 300-yard groups is what you really want to go for. So yeah, lower SDs are really good. when you have a low SD bullet, how does it affect PRS? Would be the question. Honestly, SDs, I wouldn't really focus on. If you have a PRS match that's within 1,000 yards, you're not going to see the performance gain out of a really low SD bullet or load, basically. You know, you're 9 out of 10 times, most folks can barely hold MOA groups anyway doing the craft challenge. So chasing SDs are good to do, but I wouldn't really specifically focus on that load. I would basically see how that load holds up MOA accuracy at 1,000 yards. So if you find a load that works, it's got at least 13 SD. I would say a 13 is a good goal to get. Go ahead, shoot for groups at 300, 600, and 1,000, and see if you'll hold MOA. If you could do that, you know, prone, that load would be good enough for PRS. What's up, LBJ? Okay. 6.5 Creedmoor to Criterion AR barrel. I have no experience behind that. Sorry, brother, not yet. Mandrel. I don't use a mandrel there. Midwest long range. I don't have a mandrel. What I do is I build my own dies. Now this is nothing really special. It's just typically a type S die with a bushing. Like for 25 Creedmoor, I neck down. I played around with necking up 6 Creedmoor, and I found accuracy to kind of go away and diminish. So I prefer necking down, and I use bushings basically to neck down brass. As far as like neck turning and mandrels and all that, the tool that I use the most for skipping all of that honestly is the Lee collet die. Now the Lee collet die, this is the reason why Lee Precision never made a neck sizing die or basically a neck turner. This is kind of a little hint for you guys. The Lee collet die is specifically designed to actually squeeze and actually uniform the case neck thickness and everything if you set it up right. So Lee Precision, that Lee collet die is a very ingenious tool. Once you anneal the cases, so this is how the collet die should work. You anneal your cases so you have a fresh annealed case. You set up your collet die to have about 20 pounds of pressure on the ram. And the collet dies have mandrels, and what most folks don't know about that is Lee actually makes custom mandrels. You can contact Lee and he'll give you specific mandrels and up to 5-10 thousandths plus or minus whatever you need for your neck tension. And the Lee collet die will basically uniform, smash down, and swage the case necks. So you basically get the benefit of turning necks as well as a mandrel, and it makes it very uniform. Even testing it on my concentricity gauge. So yeah, check out the Lee collet die there. You might like that tool. Another trick to that Lee collet die is when you bring the ram all the way up, spin the cartridge as you go down halfway, and then run it back up again. Because sometimes it gives you little lines, impressions on there. So if you spin it at least 90, you'll get rid of all that. So, I'm a little nasally, guys, so I apologize. Let's see here. How do you prevent strikes on the neck? Yeah, there we go, Otter. What I was talking about there. When you bring it up to the Lee collet die, bring it down halfway, spin it about 90, and run it up again. That's what I do. Northwest Guns, what's up, brother? Yep. Appreciate thumbs up. If you guys don't mind, give me a thumbs up. That would help me out with the live chats. Like I said, this is kind of an open Q&A. Whatever questions you guys ask might help somebody else out there. So I appreciate that, Craig. All right, so let's talk about rifles. What are some of the rifles that you guys are interested in? As far as PRS, like you guys that are getting into PRS, like what do you really look for when you're trying to build a rifle specifically for competition? Is balance a big factor? Do you need the weight? How much weight? And also, what kind of accessories do you guys run? As far as bag riders and all that, I'm kind of curious to see what you guys run. So, I could tell you for me, I'm not a big fan of foundation stocks. I know a lot of folks run those. Honestly, there's a lot of talk about it reducing harmonics and all that stuff. I don't notice the difference. I can shoot a foundation stock and my XRS and they feel exactly the same. They look really, really good. Now, the caveat to a foundation stock is putting on that Area 419 ARC rail. It's another $300 expense, and it's a pain in the ass because it goes right on top of your action screw. So that's the reason why I don't like it. I built quite a bit of those foundation stock rifles. They look good and they work well. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess. I prefer the MDT XRS chassis as a low budget end chassis, which is like $360. The next choice around that would be the KRG Bravo, would be a really good option as well. Again, $360. The next chassis to step up from that will be the MDT MPA or MDT MPA BA Comp chassis, or the BA Hybrid would be the next chassis of my choice. After that would be basically XLR. So those are my favorites right so far. Okay, is it cheaper, easier to reload, 6 ARC or 6.5 Grendel? Well, it all depends on availability, Brad. I've seen 6 ARC on the shelves more than anything than 6.5 Grendel. Like recently, I went to St. George and they had boxes and boxes of 108 ELDs, 6 ARC on the shelf. So you may find 6 ARC to be more readily available. It's easier to reload, in my opinion. It's about the same. I mean, 6.5 Grendel, typically, what kind of powders does it typically use? It will use basically almost the same powder as 6 ARC. 6 ARC, I have it set up on my progressive press to run CFE 223. So it's a ball powder. I can reload 100 rounds in 20 minutes, which is another reason why I choose that cartridge for PRS. For me, I like to be behind the reloading bench as less as possible. This is the biggest benefit to the 6 ARC. You could get rounds made ready to go where you could take it out in 20 minutes, go out there and practice. You're going to have more benefit shooting downrange than sitting behind a reloading bench. So ideally, the goal should be reloading as less as possible, as accurate as possible, and get you out there practicing, because the more you know your characteristic of your rifle and how to hold is going to be more points during the match. So, yeah. Okay, Ryan says he runs a 23-pound 6 dasher. Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, that's 23 pounds. Is that pretty tough to? Because I notice. Tell me if I'm wrong, Ryan. There's a lot of matches, at least over here in the West End. I live here in Arizona. There's a lot of matches that are doing more of a hold stage, where you're doing a positional shot standing, kneeling, and prone, with either a sling or without anything. So I'm noticing guys that, like even me, having a 20-pound rifle and shooting offhand is pretty damn hard. So they're doing more than that lately. For what powder are you using for 6 ARC? Okay, yeah, 6 ARC I use Hodgdon 322. That's the powder I use. You can use 8208 XBR. That's another extremely great powder. You could also step down to the Precious Varget if you have some. Varget will work as well. 4198 is another powder, but I've had really good luck with H322. I'm around 34 grains now. Do work up to that. That's a pretty hot charge. Mike Savage asked, do I test torque on my action screws for accuracy? I have, and honestly, I haven't lately for all the custom rifles that I built. I usually just set them at 65 inch-pounds and go from there. So 65 and 50 on the rear is what I do. Honestly, when I'm just testing real quick, I don't even test the torque. I just, I'm not gonna lie, I just T-handle torque wrench. I just kind of go by feel. So I don't really set my torque on the action screws. And I have, lately I have no problem finding sub-half inch groups with doing that. So I need to do more testing on that. I know in the 22 it does affect it quite a bit. So yeah, I hope that answers your question there. Otter's asking me how much you turn the damn thing. The more I turn, more strike marks are visible on the neck. Oh, I see. Okay. Otter, like I said, it's 20 foot-pounds is what they recommend. Basically, what I go by feel. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you have a cam over press, like for instance a rock chucker or something with cam over a Hornady AP press, get it to where it just cams over with a little bit of pressure, and that'll be good enough for it. So you could play around with just adjusting it down a little less. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It does leave a little line. Yep, boat anchor 100% offhand shooting is tough. Luckily, yeah, I got you, Ryan. Yeah, there's a lot of tricks you could do for holding a rifle that weighs that much. Kind of do the Olympian shooter and kind of teak up the rifle, with the handguard here, barely holding cheek weld and kind of leaning back and using your hip like that, and you can shoot offhand a little easier that way. Now that's kind of where a balanced rifle comes in handy. If you have a rifle that is forward of the mag well, that's your balance point. That really helps you out. And to go over a rifle setup, that's typically what I do. I like building rifles without adding weight to the chassis. And that's more money on accessories. That's why I go with these super heavy contour barrels and everything. I like having weight forward of the mag well. That way, when you get up to a barricade, you flop the rifle down, you sit on your bag, and honestly, it stays there. You're not having to fight the mechanics of your body as well as the rifle trying to find your target. Because all of that is time wasted. So if you could get up to the stage, your eyeball, and this is something my good friend David, who's on the live chat here, taught me, is you want to target acquisition first. So for instance, you get to a PRS match, you're third in line in queue for shooting, right? The more you can get behind your binos and glass and watch where these targets are at, the more familiar you're going to be with these terrain. So target acquisition, when you get to a stage, you can automatically look at your target, keep your eyes on target, put the rifle down, and then get behind the rifle. And doing that technique will get you on your target pretty quick. One thing that I started doing is turning down my magnification. So I typically run a 10x zoom on my scope, but I've been finding myself to actually run 8x. And in transition, when you transition from one position to the other, I power down. Power down, get up, look at your target, find it, set the rifle down, then get behind the scope, and then zoom in. So I know it's a little bit more work, but honestly, you actually save more time unless you get really proficient on target acquisition. I've been practicing that lately, and it's been really helping me out. So yeah, 10x is what I run. I got the XTR 3 with the SCR 2 reticle, and then they also have a Nightforce NX8 scope, but the MIL XT reticle. That's what I use. So Solo saying he uses one bag ACC chassis, TT. I'm not sure what that is. 6GT 28 straight. Okay, you got a 120 straight. Awesome. You got a 6GT. That's a good cartridge. What about brass life? How guys that shoot 6GT? How's your guys' brass life? And what kind of brass are you using? I'm kind of curious what you guys are seeing out there. And you're probably running what, like 34 grains of Varget, CCR 450s. Ryan, I get you. Yeah, those offhand shots, man. I'm telling you, they're doing it more and more on these PRS matches out here. They're finding that seems to be the Achilles heel on majority of shooters. So, okay. So we got a question on scope preferences. Price point. Let's ask this. So, what's your price point? I can give you a general idea of what I've seen work really well in that price range. So, yeah. So rifle setup, like I said, balance. I really focus on that. It seems to help me out because there's more and more times where you're shooting off of like a telephone pole or something stupid, and me, I'm kind of clumsy. I drop bags and crap, so it's like I get up on a telephone pole and shoot, I drop the bag off of it. So it's like, well, now I got a rifle to balance. You don't want to break your 180 and all this stuff. You got a bag on the floor or your mag fell. That's typically me on a match. So if you have a rifle that you can just plop down and something happens, like you drop a mag or something stupid, you can leave your rifle there safe. So again, like I said, for me, it's all about finding it. And there's some stages where you have a super unstable barricade. I've been practicing off tires and stuff like that. And it may be more beneficial to have a rifle free floated where you're barely, you're not putting preload on the rifle. You're just sitting there and you're not fighting your body, moving back and forth. You're letting your rifle just sit there free floating and you can just barely pull the trigger. That might help you get some more impacts on plate. Now, for me, that's been helping me out. So I've been kind of working on either preloading the rifle on barricades that aren't steady and also working on somewhat free floating the rifle. Now, having your rifle's recoil impulse where it's just straight back is going to be really, really beneficial for that. So we could talk about muzzle brakes now, I guess. The muzzle brake that I'm using right now is the what the hell? What's up, X-Ring? The muzzle brake that I'm using right now is the API Gen 3 Fat Bastard, and I have that right now on my PRS rifle. It is extremely, extremely efficient muzzle brake. I'm going to go ahead and block X-Ring already. Ryan, I'm going to try to, yeah. Vegas is definitely, they're putting on a match. So Sportsman Rifle Club is going to be a club I'm going to try to be a member with very soon. They're doing a PRS match on Saturday and then a Accurized AR match on Sunday. So at least when I go to Vegas, I can spend a whole weekend out there. The family gets to do something, and I got 2 days to play around with rifles in a match. Definitely helped me out with attaining PRS skills, I guess. So, yes, I've tried the Ace brake. I do like it. It's a great brake. Now, what I look for in a muzzle brake is something that's not going to be a carbon collector. And what I mean by that is, if you guys are familiar with the AR 419 brake, I have nothing against AR 419. I just don't prefer that brake. That muzzle brake has a cone that will basically, you screw it onto your muzzle. And if you have a very sooty cartridge like 6 ARC, it's going to do nothing but collect carbon. So if you guys are one of the folks that don't take your muzzle brakes off and clean your crown, you may have issues with accuracy later on. Cyclops, Joe, what's up, brother? Great channel. You guys want a decent scope review, an honest scope review? That's the man to go to. Appreciate jumping on there. Thanks, Joe. Tucson. That's too far from me, LBJ. Dude, Peoria may be the furthest I go, and if they keep charging $400 a night, I might not even be going there. You are more than welcome to come out here. Honestly, if I go to Ben Avery again, I had my last match there on F class. FTR was in Ben Avery. I've had a really good time there. That was in Phoenix. So I'll hit you up. Yeah. Yep. There we go. 33.6 Varget. Yeah, that's typically what I've seen too. They're solo for the 6GT. So yeah, so you go back to muzzle brakes. Yeah, definitely. I don't like the carbon collectors. I have muzzle brakes that I make, or basically turned down and contoured to the barrel, and I have those set up to where the first port is parallel with the crown. So when the bullet exits the crown, the gases go immediately 90 degrees, and it helps, for one, keep the carbon down off the crown. Two, it's really effective on recoil. So it lets all the gases do its thing and mitigate the recoil. Yes. So, yep. Joe is definitely doing EP5. I have an EP5 scope as well. I need to do a review on that from Arkin. But I've actually taken that out last weekend to one of the shooting classes out here. I had everybody kind of take a look at it. And it's a pretty good scope for the money. The eye box is still really tight. So I've actually spoke with Mike and the team at Arkin at SHOT Show as well. So I was there kind of shooting the ship with them. Good people, great folks, easy to talk to, and kind of give them my opinions on the scope or that EP5. So very receptive. They're open for suggestions as well. Does anybody have questions on rifle builds? Like I said, I had a lot of folks reach out and email me about building a rifle, and they, I just kind of wanted to open this up for folks that had questions. What I recommend. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a professional, but I built last year alone 400 plus rifles. So each one of those rifles I've had to test and shoot downrange. How it works for me is when I build a rifle and I'm done, I share the process. I'll upload videos and pictures and all that to you guys, the client basically. I show the rifle, how it's being made. I time the bore of the rifle, so the curvature of the bore is timed. So you kind of get a bench rest build. It's also all hand fit. I don't believe in pre-fits. Every one of my barrels are documented, or every one of my actions are documented. I take the measurements and I legitimately blueprint them, put them on a PDF, and I'll file it away. So if you ever need a barrel made, I have those measurements. So basically when I'm done, building the barrel on the lathe and all that, I look through a bore cam. Obviously, I inspect the chamber, make sure the chamber is good. I push a jag through it. I clean the bore extensively clean and make sure all the rust and aging process is cleaned out. And then I take it to the range. So I usually take match grade ammo first. The first 20 shots are typically a barrel break-in, but it's also a good indication of how well that barrel is going to shoot. And from my experience, the whole process of breaking in a barrel before you see accuracy is kind of fallacy. I typically see accuracy within the first 10 shots. So first 5 shots, you may have cold bore, crazy shift, just because it's, brand new barrel. And then the next 3 should be pretty close to each other. About typically what I've seen is about ½ inch. And then, I look through a bore cam. I make sure there's no weird copper fouling being collected into the bore. What I want to see is a little bit of copper fouling on the throat, then no copper fouling all the way to about 3/4 of the barrel, and then about a little bit, the last 4 or 5 inches, some copper. Now, if I do see copper in the middle of the bore, that's an indication of a low spot or a tight spot of the bore. Then I go ahead and I run a really tight jag patch, and it has on mine I have measurements laid out on that jag, and if it feels like it stops right there and it coincides with what I've seen on the bore cam, that barrel gets ripped off. So I could tell you, with all the barrels that I've done last year, I've had to change out about 7 barrels. It's really quality insurance. I'm putting my name brand and stamp on that thing, and then I guarantee those things to shoot because I shoot those rifles. So yeah, typically the first 20 shots will tell me right away if it's going to shoot ½ inch or better. I guarantee sub ½ MOA groups, and I do provide those targets. And then I go ahead and I also shoot load development. So with all the rifles I built, there's typically an accuracy node. For instance, if it's going to be 6 Creedmoor that I built the rifle for, I will shoot 105s or 115 DTACs. I'll shoot them with 41 grains of H4350, and I'll work a load up plus or minus 0.5 of a grain, and also the bullet jump as well. And typically what I'm seeing is, one rifle might like 41.2, the other rifle might like 41.5. At least it's a good starting point for somebody that wants to fine tune the load. For one, you have a rifle that shoots sub ½ inch. 2, you have a hand load that will shoot typically about 3/4 or 3/8 of an inch is what I usually go for. And then when I shoot for those groups at 100 yards, I automatically take that load and I shoot it at 1,000 yards. So I'm guaranteeing that rifle will hold MOA accuracy all the way out to 1,000 yards. So it's a lot of time and effort on my part. I kind of think that's where my selling point is for this company, is that I could guarantee rifles to shoot because I've proven it downrange. And when you get a rifle from me, it is ready to burn and go, and you already have load data. So if you guys have questions on how I do that process, definitely shoot them up. But as far as a barrel break-in procedure, I'll let the bore cam tell me what I got to do. And typically, like I said, it'll be maybe the first 3 shots, and I'll shove a patch through it and shove a bore cam. And after that, I'm just basically monitoring it with the bore cam. So there's a lot of things to it. Everybody's got their own procedures. But honestly, if you don't have a bore cam, you're not going to know, for one, if you clean the barrel right, and 2, how clean the barrel is, or if it needs to be cleaned at all. Appreciate it, X-Ring. Yeah, he's one of my known clients there for building rifles. I built quite a few rifles for him and his friends, and yeah, he's got some really good performers. And X-Ring himself has a great channel, shoots long range. Dude's a beast behind a rifle. If anybody knows how to shoot, that guy, it's a joy to watch him shoot because he has a lot of skill set. Okay, Paul says he got a 22-6 arc. Okay, yeah, I think I got your barrel here, brother. So yeah, I appreciate your patience. That came in. I'm building that probably this weekend. Torque specs. Honestly, it's 35 to 40 foot-pounds is what they recommend on that barrel nut. The barrel is dimpled for a gas block. Yes, yeah. The gas block itself's got a dimple. So yeah, that'd be easy to do. Honestly, a Paul, like I said, a bore cam is a really good tool to have. Teflon bore cam, $46. That will really tell you if your gas block is aligned. I tell you what, from experience, I've seen gas blocks, even high name gas blocks, even with a dimple, they've been off, and I can see it on the bore cam. So a few barrels that I had in the past had gas issues, and ended up finding out the gas block was not cut right. So yeah, get a bore cam definitely. How hard is it to come with a lefty Rim X? I have lefty Rim X actions in stock. I got 2. So yeah, if you want a left Rim X, that's all I have left, guys. So the Rim X's, I should have bought them all last year. I didn't know why I wasn't thinking of it, but it really got popular. The Rim X became a really popular, sought-out action. So I got a back order right now. I should be getting fulfilled a bunch of Rim X's in around February. So I got some rifle builds that I'm doing right now that have been extended because of that. But I got all the barrels in. I got all the parts in. It's just the Rim X actions have been really hard to get. So thoughts on a Lone Peak? Yeah, Lone Peak makes really good actions. The titanium, I almost bought one for using NRL Hunter. One thing that I do know about that titanium action is that if you do any kind of side loading with that bolt, it locks up a lot harder than if you were to use a regular stainless or chromoly action. Something to do with titanium action and a chromoly bolt. They're just 2 different kind of metals or dissimilar metals, and it creates a kind of a weird friction surface. And on top of that, titanium is very, very hard to machine with a nice fine finish. Typically, what you see with titanium is a kind of a wavy finish. As the end mill cuts titanium, that's just what it does. It chips it, and it creates a little wave pattern. And it's really, really hard to machine that nice and flat, flush and flat. So that's one thing I noticed with a lot of titanium actions that you're going to have. It's not as smooth as you think. There's coatings that work, but then again, you're putting a coating on top of a titanium action, which you're trying to save all the weight possible. But yeah, they run good. Actually, let me get an action because this shouldn't get me banned, but if it does, oh well. I already got 2 strikes before. But here's a TL3 block of metal. It's not a rifle. So when you manipulate the action, this is something that X-Ring has taught me. But have your thumb right behind the bolt here, cock up, pull back. So, and when you go to push forward, push on the back of the bolt straight and lock down. That will give you a straight push and pull back method. So if you're ever in a PRS match, that will give you a nice uniform push. Now, if you side load the bolt or go up and try to push, you'll see that it locks up, and it's hard to push. So if you're in you start making that a habit, even on a time-sensitive stage or something, and you make that a habit, you'll start noticing that being a lot faster, a lot more reliable. So, yeah, this is Zermac Arms TL3 action. This is what I usually recommend. Also an Origin, integral recoil lug. I love these actions. They're just, for the price money, it's hard to beat. It's got a control round feed bolt, so floating bolt head design, very easy to disassemble in the field. Spin it counterclockwise, Here's a whole firing pin assembly, and you can go ahead and you can swap out bolts and everything really easy. So here you go. Here's a whole new bolt head right here. So if you have a switch lug, which is something I'm offering now, is switch lug rifle, you could change from a 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor to a 223 in the field less than 30 seconds. Swapping out the barrel, swapping out the bolt head, and you got a whole different rifle. So right now I'm running a 25 Creedmoor switch lug rifle, and I'm building a 223 AI barrel for it for practicing PRS. But just one of the things I like about Zermatt, they're not a action manufacturer that basically just is reinventing the wheel of the Remington 700. They pretty much got everything up and running, a whole different design. It uses Savage barrels, so you could technically use a Savage barrel on this if you wanted to. I don't recommend that. But like I said, prefits aren't my thing. I've seen measurements, deviation of measurements, plus or minus 5 thousandths to 8 thousandths, and you can think about it, the difference between a go gauge and a no-go gauge is 4 thousandths. So despite what anybody says, when you buy a pre-fit barrel, a shoulder pre-fit, you are taking a risk, because I can guarantee you, regardless of what the manufacturer says, there is machine variances on every action, and typically you'll see plus or minus 3 thousandths. Sometimes you may have that one that's excessive, and that's where you may come in handy, or may have an issue. Yep. So all of these actions, if you guys see that whiteboard right there, that's what I do. I go ahead. I got a machinist block right here on the right side, where I do all of my powder measurements. Sorry, my reloading bench is a mess, but I got a machinist block right there. I got machine gauges. You really don't want to touch this with your hands, but just for demonstration purposes. Machine gauge, and I use a lot of Mitutoyo and eye gauges. So all of my tools are all zeroed out first, and then typically what I do is I go ahead and I start measuring tenon length, depth, and all that stuff, and on each action, and I write it on that whiteboard there. And when I'm done building the barrel, all of those measurements there get transferred onto a PDF file, which I store. So I have all of those measurements. So yes, out of 400 rifles last year, majority of them being Zermatt, I could guarantee you I've seen deviation on tenon measurements up to 8 thousandths, if not more. So there's a benefit. Like I said, it's kind of a dying art, so to say. There's a lot of rifle manufacturers that you could go to and say, hey, I need you to build me a rifle, and they're going to, for one, either throw you a pre-fit barrel, and they're not going to build you a rifle, they're going to assemble a rifle. So there's a difference between building a barrel and building a rifle versus assembling. And unfortunately, a lot of rifle manufacturers out there are assembling rifles. They're throwing on pre-fit barrels, and sometimes you get more slop. So when I build these barrels, I build to the action, I chamber at minimum SAMI spec. What that means is I got a go gauge here. This go gauge, this is a 6.5 Creedmoor go gauge. This go gauge, when inserted to a barrel and the action torqued down to 100 foot-pounds, will have slight resistance closing the bolt. That will be set at damn near zero SAMI spec. Now, the benefit of doing this is two things. For one, if you build this, for instance, a 6 Creedmoor, and you built a barrel at minimum SAMI, it's going to give you more barrel life, because now you have 4 thousandths more erosion than what somebody set a barrel at for instance, no go gauge. So if someone set a barrel at 2 thousandths, well, you just automatically gain 2 thousandths of barrel life just by doing this. The second benefit to it is your reloading die. Now, a lot of folks, what they don't know is that these reloading dies, when you buy them from Reading, RCBS, or whatever, they get the SAMI measurements, and they build the reloading die to size the brass down to SAMI spec go gauge. So if your barrel is set to a go gauge, at minimum go gauge, and you set your reloading die to where it touches the bottom of the shell holder, Well, that's pretty easy to set up the full-length sizing die, and it will size the brass all the way down to the base of the cartridge, and this cartridge will fit your chamber as best as possible. If, for instance, the chamber was cut and it was set, for instance, 3/1000 above go gauge, so you got basically more slop. When you set up your reloading die, now your die is going to obviously be sitting up a little further up. You're not going to size the bottom right here of where basically you get a case set separation, the little web area. You're going to have what they call a cone or a little bell area, and that will cause sometimes that'll cause you to have feeding issues, jam up, the round, be hard to extract, all of that. Not to mention, now you have a cartridge that's undersized, and it's going to be expanding more into the chamber. That's kind of where you get a lot of SDs and everything. So when you have a chamber made at minimum SAMI, you have basically a die that's matched to that chamber. You're going to have the best performance possible. So go over some questions here. Joaquin, appreciate it, brother. Thanks. Good old $20. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I just figured I'd throw a live stream out there, Joaquin. I had a lot of questions and emails. I figured I'd just open it up to you guys. We'll go over some questions right now. Okay. Yeah. Is your 6 is in the house? What's up, Rick? Yeah. So best primers for 6.5 Creedmoor. I prefer using small rifle primers for the 6.5 Creedmoor. The reason why I do that is because I could get the higher velocity node. I push 6.5 Creedmoor at 42.6 grains. Don't go ahead and jump into that load. Work up to that, because that 42.6 is above listed max. And typically what I've seen, that if you run 42.6 grains on a large rifle primer, you're going to be overpressured. So 6.5 Creedmoor, CCI 450 primers, Starline brass. I got a lot of videos that I've done in the past shooting a factory Savage 110, 6.5 Creedmoor out to 2,000 plus yards. I got a lot of folks that are on the side chat right now that have shot 2,000 yards over here with the 6.5 Creedmoor using that same load. So yeah, I use a small rifle primer, 6.5 Creedmoor. I've also played around with small rifle primer and a 6 Creedmoor, and I just didn't really get the performance I wanted to. So I've had better SDs with large rifle primer on that. So that's a good question there. Okay, so yeah, to go back to building a chamber and reloading dies, matching the chamber is a huge factor. If you guys are in the market trying to get somebody to build a rifle, build a custom rifle, ask one question to that rifle smith is, will you offer a reloading die to match the chamber? If you don't offer one, what do you recommend? And if they don't have a question, if they can't answer those two questions or offer you a reloading die that best matches their chamber, they're not really building a rifle correctly, to be honest. Good rifle smiths will know what chamber matches what reloading die and will recommend you the reloading die. So I've played around. I got a lot of custom reamers. They're all fit and matched to either Redding body dies or Redding reloading dies, or I have reamers that I can show. I got resizing reamers that I make my own reloading die. I do offer those with a complete rifle build. So when you buy a complete rifle, you could ask for a reloading die. I'm trying to work up a way to offer that as in production. To be honest, it's a lot of work. Building a reloading die, it's the same amount of work as me chambering a rifle. So it's essentially the same thing. I'm running a reamer into this blank die here to cut the chamber. But what I've specifically done is, like I said, I have reamers specifically ground to match Redding Type S dies or Mighty Armory dies. Mighty Armory and Redding are very close as far as measurements. So how I find that out is pretty simple. There's a little tip for you guys that get into reloading. You have a fired case. All right, this is something to fire it out of your rifle. You want to go ahead and take a measurement right here, just below the shoulder junction of that cartridge. So take a measurement, lock down the caliper. So you lock it down. You run this case into your full length size and die like you're going to reload. If your full length size and die, for instance, I can simulate it. I run it through a full length size and die, and I go ahead and I take the measurement again. If this caliper moves down, say for instance this far or more than 1/8 of an inch, your sizing die is oversizing that piece of brass. So what ends up happening is now, instead of it sizing the brass 2/1000ths under your chamber, and now it's sized it more than what it's supposed to do, and all of this brass now has to re-expand back in your chamber when it's fired. Now that that makes you rely on the brass composition, that the brass is going to uniformly expand, and that's where your SDs go up. Your accuracy depletes, your brass life goes away. There's a lot of factors to this, and that's why I said it all comes in hand. It ties in. If you have a chamber that's set at SAMI spec or minimum SAMI, all of that really helps out. So, like I said, if you ask the rifle smith and they don't know what die matches their chamber, I would skip using them. 6 rudders. Good question. The 6 ARC Hornady dies. I don't like talking bad about any company, but the Hornady dies from the 6 ARC completely suck. Stay away from those. They end up turning your 6 ARC cases into a belted Magnum. And what I mean by that is, I have them. You know, I got a 6 ARC Hornady die set, and what ends up happening is when you size it down, it sizes that body way too much. Ends up putting a little lip right here at the edge, a little Magnum belt. So if you're going to get into the 6 ARC, I recommend going with the Mighty Armory die that they have. That's what I recommend for full length size and die. If not, Ready, I believe, has one. I don't know who else makes one. I make my own dies, so I haven't really been in the market. But yeah, Mighty Armory is what I recommend. Yeah, they're pricey. They're about $100. They are well worth it. Like I said, their dies are very well matched to a lot of the chamber reamers. Big Al asks if I have experience with 6.5 Lapua. I do. I shoot a lot of 6.5 Lapua. I just haven't showed it on my channel. So 6.5 Lapua. I actually have 6.5 Lapua and I have 6mm Lapua. So I'm experimenting with that right now. It's kind of a 6GT in my opinion. It seems to hold a node, pretty wide node. And the 6.5 Lapua has been a proven cartridge. It's a extremely coherently accurate cartridge. So 135 A-tips is what I'm using on the 6.5 Lapua, and it shoots very well. Okay. Twist rates, that's a good question. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy and talk about twist rates. Now, if you think about twist rate on a rifle, what you're trying to achieve is obviously stability, but how a bullet gets stabilized is basically its rotational spin. So technically, if you're able to push a bullet fast enough, you don't need the twist rate to stabilize it. You get what I'm saying? You want it to spin fast enough to stabilize. So if you could get a velocity, for instance, you want to push a 103 grain or 105 grain Berger bullet, but you only have a 1 in 10 twist. If you can push that bullet at 3,400 feet a second, it will stabilize. So twist rates has been proven with a lot of ELR shooters that is kind of a fallacy. You can kind of experiment for yourself. You don't have to have the recommended twist rate. You could be just underneath it. Again, when you shoot for groups at 100 yards or 200 yards and you start seeing the carbon ring around the paper, that'll tell you right there if your rifle or your load that you worked up is stabilizing that bullet. So it's all about how it engraves the bullet. When that bullet X's that bore and it's got a yaw or pitch to it, like I said, if you see it on paper, you're going to see what I'm talking about now. Folks that have a keen eye, you'll start seeing the carbon ring on that paper is going to be darker on one side or the other. It's going to be a really tight group. You're like, man, that thing is shooting 0.12. I'm done load developing. You may want to recheck that load at 600 yards because I guarantee that thing's going to go. It's what they call spinning a shot. So Jack Neary, if you guys are familiar with Jack Neary, he does a good reloading class on YouTube on the Vidavori Powders YouTube channel. So check out Vidavori Powder and type in Jack Neary rifle reloading class. He kind of goes and explains a little bit of that. I've actually read a lot of publications from him and Brian Litz, so that's where I learned it from. I'm just and not reinventing the wheel and something that I've learned, and I'm just passing it on to you guys. So, and I've seen it firsthand with the rifles that I built. Yep. So yeah, as far as rifle builds, you guys have any questions on anything to do with chassis or what actions I prefer? We can talk about that as well. I played around with Defiance actions recently. I got a Ruckus right now that I'm building, a 300 blackout, unfortunately, but that's what the guy wants. So it's a Defiance Ruckus, $1,400 action. That's going to be a 300 blackout. Ryan says he's ran 133 solids at 3,300. Yep. So that's the 135. Now the 25 Creedmoor, I could push it at 3,100 feet a second plus. And if you do the ballistics on that bullet, and that bullet I will show you right here, here's a 25 Creedmoor box. It's got a G1 ballistic coefficient of 650, G7 at 334. That bullet at 3,100 feet a second will stay supersonic out to a mile. And yes, I tested that. It stays supersonic out to a mile. Okay, Papa's Place. He's asking recommendations on a Savage action. All right, so I have a Savage 110. I've built a lot of Savage barrels. The one thing that I've noticed is if you could have somebody build a barrel and eliminate the barrel nut system, one, you get a full contoured barrel. What I mean by that is, let's see if I can grab one here. I might have one. Here's a couple barrels, right? Here's a Savage barrel with a barrel nut. Here's a full contoured 120, 125 contour. If you can eliminate the barrel nut system or have somebody build a barrel to the Savage action, you'll have a full contour on that barrel, meaning you'll have more meat around the chamber, you have more weight. The barrel contour, you guys barely see it on the webcam, but it is a lot thicker. The stainless steel barrel is a lot thicker than this thing. It will basically, what I've seen, hold accuracy a lot better. It's just more of a solid lockup. So I built quite a bit of Savage rifles, eliminated the barrel nut system, put on a really good thick 0.25 inch recoil lug, and obviously built the barrel around that. And those guys are what I've gotten emailed to me was 2-inch groups at 600 yards. So really good shots. The guys are doing bench rests. You can really get a Savage rifle shooting very well. Now, that's the Savage rifle and the Zermatt actions are very similar, which, like I said, they share that floating bolt head design. That floating bolt head design allows the bolt to move very slightly, center up the cartridge, and it's kind of a cheap way of getting a very precise squared action without having a squared action. So Savage rifles, the reason why they're really accurate is because of that. Just like in reloading, you have free play on how you resize your bullets and all that. The same scenario happens with a Savage rifle. It has that little bit of free play in that bolt, allows that cartridge to center up. So if you got a really good barrel, more than likely that Savage rifle is going to shoot very well. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm a big fan of Savage. You don't really hear of Savage rifles not shooting well. So, not many people like Savages. I understand, but like I say, you don't hear a lot of people saying they don't shoot. Otter saying he said I messed up. I don't know, man. If you use Otter, if you got a 308 collar die, that might be the problem, because I heard a 308 collar die is doing that. He's saying about I didn't explain it right. The lead collet die. It's got a little collet up there. How it works. I'll take it one apart for you. It's basically like a decapping pin. You got a collet system. You have this pin. This pin has a set diameter for the inside neck tension. Just a straight pin that goes down. Just the collet, and this is what squeezes around that pin. So what he's saying is when it goes up and it squeezes, these little lines you see on the collet start putting imprints on the brass. Well, what Lee recommends to do is set this die up to where it's 20 foot-pounds of pressure on the ram itself. That's what they recommend. That way it squeezes and uniforms the case neck, so you don't have to turn necks or swage or any of that. Now, that line sometimes shows up. Honestly, all you have to do is just back the die off. Maybe not 20 foot-pounds, but if you have a cam over press, that's going to be ideal. You want it to basically cam over, and when it cams over and releases, it's going to get uniform neck tension and all that stuff. So I set mine up to where basically it bottoms out my press and it feels about 20 pounds of pressure. I don't get those lines. I can show you. There's a case right now. There. I don't have any lines on my cases. They're all nice and super shiny. Idaho Rogers. Appreciate it, brother. Idaho. When you come pick up your rifle, sir, I'll give you a shirt. I appreciate that. In fact, these are on the website. If you guys want a shirt like this, they are long sleeves. They are cotton. They are on the website, DPGunworks.com. I have those on the website, abundance of different sizes. So check it out. Appreciate the support. This is designed by my niece. So my niece designed it, and it's helping her art tuition. So Kurt's saying he fireformed 25-06, fireformed the load in the middle of the road, standard 25 played around and got 75 VMAX. Whoa, 4,100 feet a second. Did that bullet blow up in the air? Yeah, that's smoking fast, man. 4,100 feet a second. Yeah, that'd be crazy to see what that does on a coyote. One bolt action to rule them all. What would it be? Oh no. Gosh, that's a tough one, dude. I played around with a lot of bolt actions. Dude, it's a tie, man, between I really like the Falcor action. It's smooth. I like the Zermatt actions, obviously. It's one of my number one sellers. I'm not a fan of impact actions at all. I've seen too much deviations on those. Yeah, it would be a tie between Zermatt, Falcor, and shoot, man. The Aero Precision that came out with that action. I played around with that. That might be my new favorite. So I got one on order. So when I get one of those, I'll build a rifle. I can't really answer that. Sorry, brother. Well, it makes me wonder if I could do. Yeah, Savage 22 long rifle. Yeah, the Mark II FV. You could build a barrel for that there, LBJ. They're actually press fit on, by the way. They use a pin. Pop the pin out, and the whole barrel pops right off. Okay. Well, as far as reloading, like I said, open this discussion up to you guys. Like I said, I'm not a pro on reloading. I've shot a lot of rifles, and I could say that they shoot half-inch or better, and I can share my experience. So if you guys have any questions on reloading, what I could tell you, a hint of what I do, like I said, I usually find a load within the first 20 rounds. I'll give you a little general idea. What I do is if I have a brand new cartridge I've never played with before, or a brand new rifle, a brand new cartridge, I'll load a progressive loading range. Typically, you'll hear everybody say, when you get reloading data, go off the books, right? Well, good rule of advice, but honestly, there's a lot of sources nowadays online, YouTube, the PRS blog. There's a lot of sources that are having folks share load data, and I know it's a very it's not a good habit to get into, but it's a good source of information to reference off of. So, for instance, you want to know what the load for 6 Creedmoor with a 105 Burger hybrid. You start searching it. The PRS Firearms blog has a good article on what the pros use. What the article's name? What the pros use, and you'll see that 4150, 41 grains, 105 Burger hybrid. You'll see a chart of people doing that. Okay, well, take note of that. 41 grains of 4350 with the 105 grain Burger. Then you go online and start researching the forums, and you start seeing kind of a appearance of forms of people posting the same powder charge and their same accuracy node. Again, that's another good hint to take. So learning those and people's experience behind that cartridge and what they have shared as far as accuracy will give you a good determination of where you need to be on your load development. The biggest thing that I say when you start getting load development is to come up with a goal. And what I mean by that is reach a certain velocity. Something I was discussing earlier. For me, I like to have a velocity node that matches my reticle. So at 1,000 yards, I want to be 7 mils or 6.8 or 7.5, whatever it is at 1,000 yards. Something that's in half MRAD reticle. That way, if I do holdover stages, I could easily do those holdovers without having to dial so much. So typically what you're going to find when you come up with a goal, you're going to see, okay, on your ballistic chart, you come up with a 105 grain. You want to hit 29, 30 feet a second, right? That's where your velocities match and all that. You see online that folks are running 41 grains of 4350. They're hitting 2,900 feet a second, 2,950. Well, right there should give you a good general idea. So you don't want to start your load development at 37 grains. You're just going to be wasting components and supplies. So I would start at like 39 grains and work up in half grain or 0.3 grain increments. And you want to work up until you find your pressure signs. So the book may say 43 grains is max pressure or 44 grains of 4350 is max pressure. It's a good thing to know, but if you could go past that, like I said, go past just a little bit and find your max pressure of your rifle. And what I typically do is back off 2 grains from there. And what you're going to find is typically when you back off 1.5 to 2 grains from your max pressure of your rifle, you're going to be right there at the node. And you did take note that, okay, PRS rifle blog saying 41 grains. I backed off, let's say, 1.5 grains or 2 grains, and I'm at 40.5. Well, right there is where you should start your load development, fine tuning. So that's typically what I do. I start 0.5 grains. I jump up from, for instance, 6 Creedmoor, 40.5 grains. My next 3-shot group will be 41 grains. Next 3-shot group will be 41.5. And if I find something that shrinks down a little bit, it may not be a half-inch group, but it did shrink down and open back up, that's going to be your accuracy node right there, or your powder charge node. And then from after that, you go back to your load development or your reloading bench and work in 0.2 grain increments. That's typically what I do. So if I found something shrunk down around 42.2 grains or 42 grains or 41.5, or start say 41.5, I start there, work in 0.2 grain increments and do 5-shot groups and find something that's repeatable. So you go back out, there at whatever it is, 100 yards, do your 5-shot group, load development. It seems to hold that node. You could fine tune that by your seating depth. So now from there, we determined our seating depth was 25 thousandths from touching the lands. Now start working towards the lands from there. So with that same powder charge, start working in 5,000 increments. So for instance, I'm 25 thousandths off the lands. Now my next 5-shot group will be 20 thousandths. Next 5 will be 15 thousandths. That's what I do, and you'll really narrow down a load within like 50 shots. So 3-shot groups with a good barrel and a good rifle that will consistently shoot MOA. 3-shot groups are decent to do. They'll really kind of save you on load development, your reloading supplies, and then just working your seating depth node should be the last thing. And like I said, you find a group that seems to be consistent. You want to take note of the carbon ring on the paper. Don't just stick to the tiniest group, the tiniest node or load on paper. Go ahead and test it out 600 and 1,000 yards. So that'd be, that's my standard on these things. So, yep, don't chase velocity. X-Ring is 100% right. Every rifle has a characteristic of how it shoots. You want it, and this is a question that would be good to ask anybody. And they will actually, if you ask this question to a shooter that avidly shoots downrange, ask them, what range is your spin drift? Where does your spin drift come into play? See if they know that question, because a lot of people that shoot rifles, that shoot long range, probably won't know what yardage. For me, what I know, the six ARC has a spin drift effect around 750 yards to 800 yards. I have to hold about half mil for my rifle. But if you ask that question, you'd be surprised. A lot of folks don't know. So, yeah, don't chase velocity. You'll notice that a lot of PRS cartridges, what I've noticed recently is 2850, 2900 feet a second. It seems to be a sweet spot for accuracy. You got less spin drift. It holds a really good node. It holds the wind pretty good still, and there's not much variables. You don't have a weird shot that just strays out. Because when I was pushing a 115 DTAC at 3100 feet a second, I kept noticing, well, shoot, man, I'll have one or two shots that just spit out freaking left field out of nowhere. You're like, what the hell happened there? That's what happens when you start pushing the cartridge, the bullet. So, in a match, those one or two shots that you just missed off or go off plate, that's a point drop. It could have cost you a top 5 finish. So, I know that's right. Yeah, most rifles are more accurate. Okay, so I discussed this on a previous chat. If you want to go ahead and start your load development on a rifle, for instance, you got a factory rifle. You bought, for instance, a Ruger RPR. My suggestion to you, if you want to determine if your rifle is worth spending the time, if you think about reloading components, today's reloading costs of the components are super high, super expensive. Let's say, for instance, these 7 mils, and this was 2 years ago, $60 a box for a pack of 100. That's $60. You add on a pound of powder, 6.5 stay ball. You get this thing shipped to you. You're looking at $38 to $42 a pound. So right there, you're looking at $110 for just powder and bullets. Okay, now we go to cases. Well, if you got to buy brand new cases, you can factor in that. For this instance, we're just going to reuse cases, so we'll call that a wash. And then today, everybody's complaining about primers. Well, you could get primers, but they're going to be around 12 cents a primer. So you factor in another $40 a box. So right there, you're at $150 just in reloading components for about 100 bullets. Now, if you have a brand new rifle and you're wondering if you should do load development for it, the first thing I always recommend to do is go out and buy a box of match ammunition. So factory Hornady match ammunition. If you're going to shoot 6.5 Creedmoor, buy a box of 140 grain and 147 grain ELD match and see if that rifle holds at least a 3/4 MOA. If that rifle could hold a 3/4 MOA group, then go ahead and start performing your load development. If it cannot hold a 3/4 MOA group, once again, try another match grade ammunition, and if it seems to be picky, in my opinion, this would be just my opinion, it is not worth you spending your time, your reloading efforts, and your reloading supplies on that rifle. The first thing I would recommend to do is take that money, instead of spending $150 on reloading supplies, drop another $100 or $200 and swap out the barrel. 9 out of 10 times with the rifles that on my channel, you guys seen it. I got a Mossberg 100 ATR that just shot like crap with the 308. The first thing that I did was swap a barrel in there, and all of a sudden, half MOA groups, and that rifle is now my F-class rifle. So it is, my opinion, that instead of wasting your reloading supplies and money and effort and all that, find somebody that could swap in a barrel for you. Spend the money that way. It's going to save you the frustration. You'll hear a lot of professional shooters recommend that the number one thing that they do is spin on a good barrel. So start off with a good foundation, which would be a good barrel. And then from there, obviously, you could go ahead and try your factory match ammo. You're going to see it shoot pretty good. Then your load development from there. So that's what I recommend. A barrel seems to be the number one go-to for fixing accuracy issues. And it's sad to say that a lot of production rifles these days is exactly what it is. It's a production rifle. They're trying to get these products out to majority of you guys, thousands and thousands of rifles. So you got worn out reamers, you got barrels that are subpar. They're doing everything at cost and cheap. So they're trying to make cash on their end. So think about it, guys. A production rifle is made with higher tolerances. They lean more towards reliability. So that's going to be sloppier tolerances, so they can feed a vast majority of bullets and cartridges out there. So when you're chasing accuracy, it's going to be very rare that you get a production rifle that shoots very well unless you're paying pretty top dollar, like a Delta or something, or AI Accuracy International. But if you're just somebody that bought a Ruger American Predator, for instance, you bought a Savage Access rifle, and if all you want to do is hunt, that's going to be that rifle. If you want to take that rifle and shoot a target 10-inch plate at 1,000 yards and be consistently accurate, you may struggle with that as far as that being the production rifle. Okay. Yep. I found the best results. The charge test 3 to 4 times each charge. Yep. And snake it through. Start on low charge and shoot up. Same. Yeah. So I can give experience on that. Majority of the cartridges that I played with, there's usually a high velocity node and a low velocity node. Typically, if you want to, see repeatable accuracy, you're going to want to favor the low velocity node. And there's also going to be a bullet jump node. A lot of bullets out there will probably like to be in, like for instance, the birders, they want to be jumped 65 thousandths and also 10 thousandths. You want to be close to the lands or have a good old running start. So on burger bullets, you're going to find that you'll have a really good accuracy jumping bullets at 65 thousandths. But it depends on the rifle. That rifle might spit that shot at 300 yards, and that, like I said, is all about stability. You can have a really tight node at 100 yards. It's jumping 65 thousandths, but you go walk up to the target and you start seeing our carver ring. That carver ring I'm talking about, engraving a little bit on the lower left. You may find that load is going to be not even holding MOA at 300 or 600 yards. So majority of the time, I always fall in with the low velocity node and closer to the lands. I'm usually around 15 to 10 thousandths off the lands. Yep, the BR cartridges seem to do well. That's right. A lot of folks run the BR at 2,830 feet a second, the 105s. My personal 6 Creedmoor load, the 105, I shoot it at just under 3,000 feet a second. So I'm doing 2,970 feet a second. That's what I shoot that with. My 6 ARC, I switched over to CFA 223, and I'm shooting that at 2,870 feet a second now. My 25 Creedmoor is doing 2,870 feet a second. So, I mean, there's that right there is showing that's 3 cartridges all within that 2,800 feet a second mark. Appreciate that, Trek. Yeah, I just want to share what I've learned. I'm nothing special. I'm just somebody that's has been blessed to shoot a lot of rifles, so I could definitely share my experience. I think reloading is a dying art, and it needs to be shared for sure. Okay, so yeah, if anybody else has any other questions, I think we've been here for about an hour and 30 minutes. We can wrap it up here pretty soon. I kind of, like I said, I wanted to open this discussion up to everybody here that have questions on reloading or setting up a PRS rifle. My experiences, basically, off of that. Weight's a big factor for a PRS rifle. I said, I really factor in balance on a rifle, be it that weighs 16 pounds or 24 pounds. It all depends on the chassis. Um, I tend to not offer the ACC chassis much, and I just my own preference. I just don't like ACC chassis. I've seen a lot of those chassis, the screws and stuff fall off. You guys know what I'm talking about. The ACC chassis has little screws that hold on the bottom of the ARC rail. If if you're somebody that goes out there and tests these rifles, you'll start noticing little things like that come loose. So, you know, a competition dynamics match like the one that me and X-Ring go to, or the one that Is Your Six Cover goes to, those matches really put your gear to the test. We're talking about bipods. I've seen Vortex, and I'm not bad mouthing any name brand out there. Trust me. These are just things I've seen happen. Vortex binos go down. I've seen my SkyPod has lost the deployment knob. You'll be surprised, but the SkyPod, a $720 double pull SkyPod, top dollar SkyPod, almost put me out of the damn match. I had, like I said, it's the button you push down to deploy the actual leg, right? Well, if you guys don't know, that button is screwed on. It's something I've complained to MDT. Personally, I've talked to their engineering team and told them, hey, this is a $700 bipod. Why the hell is this thing screwed on when Generation 1 that Thomas Sky made doesn't? Those things are pinned in. That's a game ender. I wish I had it on me right now. I could tell you what I'm talking about, but it's basically that silver button you push down to deploy the leg. That silver button is screwed on along with a lot of other things on the SkyPod. That happened to me twice already on a match. The ACC chassis, I've had the handguard screws come off. I've had QD mounts on, you know, a lot of chassis come loose on me and break off, where you're sitting there rucking a rifle and all of a sudden your rifle just starts swinging out. And you're like, what the hell? Your QD mount broke off. So honestly, a match like CD or competition dynamics where you're in the elements, you're taking your rifle, you're on a time to match, you're running with your rifle. All of those things are gear tested. This stuff that you start noticing what higher end gear does and why it costs that much money. And those tighter tolerances that are machined on a QD mount hold up to your sling, doesn't break off on you, so you don't drop your rifle. The Vortex binos, if it falls over because it's on a tripod and you had a big gust of wind come by and it fell over once and all of a sudden now it doesn't work or it's miscalibrated. Well, shoot, you paid $1,400 and now you don't have binos, a laser rangefinder. That's a game ender right there. So there's a lot of things that match that me and Ray, and I really appreciate Ray taking me to those, have really tested gear and to really kind of show truth of what works. So I could, like I said, I could get experience that way. I really recommend the XLR chassis. It's just super hard to get right now. I personally run that right now. I have the XLR NV Pro that I'm borrowing. That chassis is one of my favorite. The MPA BA Comp is my next choice. That chassis has been proven. There's less parts for it to come off. There's no screws in there like that besides your action screws that come loose. So that's why I recommend that chassis. The MDT XRS chassis is their budget line. I like that chassis. Same thing. It's simplistic. So, yeah. Do I ship international? It depends. Peter, if we're talking about a camera, I could probably work it out. As far as rifles, I'm not an exporter, so I don't have exportation license yet. What I could do, if you know a FFL in the States here, I could ship a rifle. If you want a rifle built by me, I could build that rifle, ship it to that FFL. They can work on the exportation paperwork and go that route. So that's an option for you. Fine binoculars you're using on that day we shot. Oh, Idaho. Those are the SIG Kilos 2500 BDXs. You could get them. The ones that I got are the black edition. They are roughly $800. They have the OD green, which are roughly $1,200. It is a very pricey piece of tool, but honestly, it is a tool that you could use for hunting. It's a tool you can use for just scouting or just using for bino work anyway. It's very clear glass, and the fact that it pairs up to your Kestrel and gives you your holdovers and all that really quick. It's a must-have tool, especially for a competition shooter. If anybody is to get into PRS, the number one tool I'd recommend getting right away would be the binos. The 6 kilo 2500 BDXs is my top choice. The more time you spend behind the binos on a stage watching those targets, the more time the more familiar you're going to be with target acquisition, the faster you'll be on target acquisition. You'll know what those targets are at. You'll see if people are missing. For instance, you're seeing the last 5 shooters that are on that stage hitting left side of plate. Sometimes you might hear, if you pick it up what they're calling, they may call out to their buddies, "Hey, I was holding half a mil and I was still left side," or I was holding 1 mil and I was left side of plate. That might give you a good factor if you're watching. Hey, at that target, I'm probably going to hold about 7 or 8 tenths, and I should be able to hit. So having binos on a PRS match, for one, you're not sitting there trying to spot one eye Willie all the way out there with a high magnification. You're getting a good field of view. You can see what's going on. It just really helps you out. So I recommend those as a number one choice, the first thing to buy. Conservative Hunter saying, where is he at? Oh, I saw a question up earlier. Yeah, I've met a lot of folks at MDT there, Wangs, and yeah, they do. There's a lot of folks that do care. Unfortunately, it seems like the engineering side, they seem to take, I guess, opinions or critics from certain people. So, unfortunately, I don't have that pull. So I just give them my experience. We sat down and we were talking about what I spent last year. I was pretty surprised how much I spent in MDT products last year just alone. So, thanks, Pat. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I got lots of burgers in the shed. I know. I'm a big burger guy. I've been buying a lot of burgers lately. Not talking about cheeseburgers here, because I've been buying a lot of that lately too. Yeah. What would you say is the go-to 6mm PRS round right now? A lot of folks what you're seeing trending right now is lower velocity, getting that 2850 feet a second. I could tell you from experience, it doesn't matter what cartridge you pick, if it's Dasher, 6 GT, 6 BR, 6 ARC, 6 Creedmoor. If you tell me you are pushing a 105 Burger hybrid or a 109 Burger hybrid at 2,900 feet a second, I could give you your dope. So, like I said, it all depends. Basically your caveat. What do you want to spend brass prepping? There is no benefit of shooting one cartridge over the other. So, a 105 Burger doing 2890, 2850 will do the same exact thing as a Dasher shooting a 105 Burger doing 2850. Now, it all depends on what you can get reloading supplies. So, I would suggest is factor in your reloading time and components. If you are going to go to those ruck matches where you're going to shoot a CD match, I can guarantee you're going to lose brass. So if you're shooting a 6 BR or 6 Dasher, that is $1 a case that you're going to lose. So at the last CD match, we had a little bit of downtime. Me and Ray were picking up brass, and I told Ray, if it's short and stubby, pick it up. I'll put that thing on the prize table because that's $1 a case. So yeah, factor that in. Dasher, brass, BR, all of that could be pretty expensive. If you're in a PRS match, obviously a local PRS match, people are going to shag brass, so you'll get it back. You may have somebody else's brass, so learn to mark your own brass and all that. But honestly, there is no dominant 6mm cartridge. What's going to be dominant and what's going to benefit you is taking what you got, regardless if it's 6 Creedmoor, Dasher, whatnot, as long as it's 100% reliable. What I mean is feeding and everything. If you worked out all the feeding bugs and all the cartridges, and you get out there and shoot, go out there, figure out where your rifle wants to be. Can it hold an MOA group at 1,000? Can you hold an MOA group at 600 or 1,000 off a barricade or whatever? Those are the things you need to know in order to succeed in a PRS match. So you won't know that if you're spending more time behind a reloading bench trying to figure out your load development than going out there and just freaking shooting. So my biggest thing I've been telling folks in this game, it's not bench rest. You're not trying to get aggregates. You're not trying to get X rings and all that. You are literally shooting a 1 MOA to a 2 MOA target majority of these matches. So as long as your rifle is capable of shooting half-inch or at least better than that, and you can hold an MOA group and you know what your dope is, you're going to win the match. That's simple as that. So go out there and practice. Find out what your rifle wants to do. Find out where your rifle has its little kinks and bugs, like a 6mm, 750 yards. I know I got to hold an extra 2/10 because of spin drift or something stupid like that. Every rifle has a little characteristic that you have to find out. You're not going to know what that rifle does unless you're out there shooting. So that's really what I'm stressing out today. Small rifle primers, yeah, everybody's looking for those. Get on Discord, get on the reloading channel. They have been coming in stock the last week, 2 weeks. I've been getting notifications from primers being in stock from Brownells. Larry is raping us $100 a box, but hey, there's primers if you need them. So you can get primers that way. You got to be fast. So that's I've been lucky enough to pick up boxes of primers. So I've actually stored more primers during this whole epidemic than I've ever bought previously, which is kind of odd. So yeah, there's ways to shop. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to buy higher price for primers. Next AR build. I built an AR9 3D printed lower there. Todd. So I got a 3D printed an AR9 lower just to play around with. That was my next build. So, what can I do with a 308? No, Otter, you'd be surprised. 168 grain, 165 Sierra Bullet 308 is very potent out to 1,000. So, go out there and see what you could do. It's not too heavy. What's up, Uncle Jim? I think we'll wrap this up. We're at 1 hour and 45 minutes. If you guys have any other questions, you can definitely hit me up at DPGunworks.com. So, like I said, we're there primarily to help you build a rifle. So if you have any questions on what to build, I like calling the clients. I don't want to build somebody that was looking for a hunting rifle and build them a 20-pound rifle. So everybody that that contacts me or, for instance, buys a rifle, I will be calling you, and I sit down, I take the time to take notes, see exactly what you're trying to do on that rifle build. So, for instance, your goal is to hit 1,000 yards, or all you have is 300 yards. I will recommend you a cartridge that, one, is going to save you money, it's going to benefit you, and match what you're trying to do. So, so if you have any questions on what to build, or you're tossing up an idea, I can share my experience with you guys, and that may help you out. Yep, CHA, the Service Separate Hunter, yeah. The X-Ring and Asia 6 Covered are great channels. They go through a lot of what I do, the same kind of content that I provide. They have a lot of good live chats as well. So Asia 6 Covered does a lot of good live chats. If you guys have questions, jump onto that. The X-Ring is just a phenomenal teacher. He's a really good friend of mine too, and he's just an awesome person. Straight to the point. Will tell you like it is. If you want to learn something, that's the guy to go to. He freaking is amazing. Okay, before I leave, prices on the AR-15 and 6mm ARC. Right now, I have them out of stock, and the reason why is because I have a back order. I have them listed on there for around $750, and I know it is pricey. I know that's pricey, but you are getting a matched JP bolt head, so that bolt head will be chamber matched to that barrel. Again, all of these barrels are hand fitted on, so I am literally threading and putting on the barrel extensions. I wonder if I have some right here. Yeah. So I'm a little bit different. I use white oak ornament barrel extensions. If you notice, that barrel extension is longer. White oak ornament offers competition barrel extensions, and what this allows you to do is actually, in theory, I haven't really tested it much, but it's got tighter threads and a longer extension. So when you have a barrel that is 24 inches long and you only have this much thread on a barrel extension, we have all of this weight teetering, tottering on that barrel extension and threads. That barrel extension, it being longer, allows you to have more case support and everything on that barrel. Tighter threads, it just allows to have, like I said, more support on that barrel. So, like I said, when I build these barrels, they are completely hand fitted, and I go ahead. I also drop it into an upper and I test them. So, $750 may seem pricey, but again, it's a guaranteed shooter. So, I can tell you right now that the 6mm ARC AR-15 barrels, I've personally tested over 27 barrels myself, and a majority of them shoot about MOA accuracy, which isn't that good considering 6ARC as being a brand new cartridge and all the hype that Hornady put out there. It's very rare to see a AR-15 6mm ARC barrel shoot and perform well. The ones that I've seen shoot and perform well are usually typically 18-inch barrels or 20-inch barrels. Again, the caveat to that is you're shooting a 105 at damn near the same velocity and same bullet drop as a 6.5 Grendel. So you're not really performing better than the 6.5 Grendel. So, yeah, you have the accuracy, but again, the 6.5 Grendel will do the exact same thing. So, in my opinion, if you're going to go 6ARC, 22-inch barrel, no shorter would be my recommendation, unless you have specific SBR build or you're going to be running a can. What's up, shout out? What? Yeah, October seems so far away. I know. I can't wait for you to get beat again. I'll bring the rice patty hat this time. Yeah. So Todd, yeah, EP integration. That's Elster Rifles and Reloading. He's saying he used Rock River Arms. And yes, if you've seen his channel, you'll see that he's got some very impressive AR shooting sub quarter-inch groups. So yeah, he's got some really good ARs there. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, we'll shut it down. 2 hours. That's quite a bit. Had over 90 people show up. So I don't do many live chats. This being the first I've ever done, I think. So I really appreciate you guys jumping on and asking questions. Again, if you have questions or if you are contemplating what to build or need help building a rifle, hit me up, DPGunworks.com. Leave a comment below on this chat as well. We're all here to help. I appreciate everybody being respectful, and like I said, it's a great community. So, yeah, we definitely need to do more live chats. Like I said, I thought I'd throw this out there for folks. So, all right, folks, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks again for stopping by. It's probably late for you guys, and if you guys want to see more reloading content, I'm debating if I should show more. I've been getting strikes on YouTube. Honestly, I don't care if I lose this channel or not. I do this for my son. That's honestly why I do these videos. So that's why he's in a lot of my videos. I shoot videos just for him to be a memory. So, and then obviously share my information with you guys. So I appreciate it, guys. Well, as always, like I said, you guys stay safe out there, and don't catch the coof. That's been going around. Everybody's getting sick. So, guys, stay healthy out there. And if you have any questions, hit me up. So appreciate jumping on there. Thanks, guys.